National Nurses Week was proclaimed by Richard Nixon in 1974. But back in 1966, a new TV show hit the air and changed us all. That's right, folks. It's time for Star Trek Geek Week on Slice.
Covering all the news from every dark corner of the universe. SliceofSciFi.com.
That is awesome. Thank you for tuning in, folks. This is Michael R. Menengay.
Live long and prosper. I'm Noah Richmond.
I'm Ben Raggington.
I'm Sam Roberts.
I'm still a red shirt, Brett Philippek.
And I'm Megan Zier.
Awesome. And we're continuing our Trek-a-Palooza. We're doing an entire week of Star Trek because it is the 47th anniversary coming up here very, very shortly of Star Trek when it was originally aired in the day. Before we get too deep into this, you have to tell your Yoda story. Because
My Yoda story?
Yoda?
That's the wrong.
No.
This better be good.
Just go with it. Just go with it.
It better be good. Okay. All right. This is going to be good. Okay.
It is going to be good.
So I'm sitting at home. I'm gathering up all my Star Trek stuff. See, there's Tom Barris. There's 7 of 9. Secondary cuddle module of Teddy Matrix 01. And,
Please
my
tell me
pin.
you made that up.
I totally did.
Good for you.
And then those are my nieces, too. And she's like, I don't get those names. And I'm like, that's a bummer. That's their names.
That's their names.
But there's my pin and my pips, and I'm getting them all together. And my mom's like, oh, you know what? You should take Yoda.
The Yoda bobblehead.
And I'm like, giving her a look like, excuse me? And she's like, no, I'm sorry. I thought you said Star Wars. Don't give me the look. Please don't give me the look. So here's Yoda in all his bobbly glory. Because I think he would totally chill with the Q and whatnot.
He would.
And that's for my mom.
But I think it's a very interesting thing. The disconnect and the cross genre between Star Wars and Star Trek.
It's got star in the title.
It happens a lot.
Well, and it's easy to do because so there I am at my first or second Phoenix Comic-Con. It was my first time doing interviews for you guys, right? And I got to meet Will Wheaton and I got to meet Buck Rogers and Colonel Deering. But I also interviewed Richard Parmentier, who was in Star Wars and was force choked by Darth Vader.
Right.
And when I first introduced him, I said from Star Trek instead of Star Wars. And so we had to cut and start filming again. And I was like red-faced, and it was like my first weekend interviewing, and I was all nervous, and it was horrible. And he was very gentlemanly about it because it's Star Wars, Star Trek. It's easy to conflate.
He would be cool about it, but don't let that interview go out over the air because you would have been crucified.
Oh, no, that was edited.
You would be lynched.
I was going to say, Noah, were you nervous about anything before starting Star Trek Week?
Yeah, just a little.
How many people have cringe every time they hear one of their friends call it Star Trek?
Star Trek.
Oh my God, I want to jab somebody in like the temple with like a dull spoon. I swear.
Where you just too loudly say Trek.
Yeah.
Trek. It's Star Trek.
Right? Good. Okay.
So anyway, let's. I just had to throw that out there really quick because otherwise we'd
As we've
never
just
get
gone
to
4 minutes into the show.
Exactly, but this is going to pretty much take the rest of it.
Oh boy!
Here we go.
Hey, this is Sam. I've got a Star Trek question that I have been pondering for years now, and never has it been adequately answered for me, not even by the writers. And here's my question. In the movie Star Trek Generations, that would be Star Trek number 7, where the Nexus plays an important part. The Nexus, as you know, is that ribbon of space that goes through space every so many years, and if you get caught up in the Nexus, then you're in this alternate reality. The big question I have is, did we actually start an alternate timeline in Star Trek during Star Trek Generations? The reason I ask this is because once you're in the Nexus, you're never really out of the Nexus. In fact, when Captain Picard was asking the Nexus Whoopi Goldberg, if he could go back and make things right back on Viridian 3, she said, where are you going to go? You can go anywhere you want. The thing is, though, he can go anywhere he wants except back to the reality he just came from, because once you're in the Nexus, you are in the Nexus. And you can't leave. All you can do is start a new kind of reality within the Nexus. You create anything you want, but it's always within the realm of the Nexus, not in the realm you just came from. So my question is, did we not really start a new alternate timeline on Star Trek Generations, which means that everything that happened after that in Star Trek Next Generation really took place in an alternate timeline, which means that in the existing timeline, Data may not be dead. Why? Because Data died only in the Nexus timeline. Just a thought. Things to ponder.
I don't even want to ponder that. I don't want to ponder that because
I tell you,
we've had this conversation.
We have had
before.
this conversation. Yes, we have.
So then can I say what this immediately makes me think of? What are you laughing at? Oh, and that's other Sam, by the way. Sam Sloan.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
right.
Sorry, that's confusing because it's on Sam right
that's
now.
why I'm Girl Sam at Slice of Sci-Fi, and he's Sam at Slice of Sci-Fi.
He is
That's
Sam,
right.
I didn't-
epic questioner.
I didn't think about that.
He's OG Sam. He's original Sam.
If you need to go to the bathroom, now is a good time because you're going to probably be here for a while.
So I'm just going to say that immediately made me think of the Amber series by Roger Zelazny.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the concept of there being one real place and Shadow being where the Princes and Amber can create any reality they want and have
Right.
whatever power they want, but they always know that it's something they created for themselves and it's not quite real. And so that
That's
all that
what's
really
with the
matters
hand
for
up.
them, all that really matters for them is actual Amber, where the pattern is and where the real people
Right.
are, because it's not manipulated, it's not made up, it's realness. And that's what I think of when I hear that.
I cry foul because you brought in books and literature, and I have no idea what you just said. So I say poo on all that, and I refuse to sit there and even think about that anymore.
Infidel.
But the interesting,
You got literature in my Star Trek.
Well, there was a video game.
But the interesting thing about this conversation is that it is one that I'm going to kind of move it off the nuts and bolts of this
Probably a good
conversation
idea.
as much as I can here, because it's about how rabid Star Trek fans are about their genre, and the fact that questions like this come up and get debated for years,
Right.
Because we have to have a logical conclusion or a logical explanation for why this happened inside of our show.
Is it possible that Star Trek has created its own monster in terms of its fandom? Because
Oh,
we said
absolutely.
we talked
absolutely.
about critical thinking
absolutely.
and being very analytical. So what has happened? Star Trek fans have all of a sudden become very analytical about their show. And now you start getting these fans. Well, like, okay, classic example. There's a web series. There's several different Star Trek web series, but there's one that's simply called Phase 2. And there was an episode that was actually written by Dorothy Fontana. And what she did is she actually decided to go back and revisit something that happened in the Deadly Years. And that's where everybody started aging really fast, except for Chekhov,
Right.
because of a big...
He was terrified.
Because of the adrenaline in his system, he was immune. Well, after being in the story that she wrote, after being hit by some freak bit of radiation, he begins to age drastically. And this served as a great excuse to actually get Walter Koenig to come back and play an older version of himself.
Right.
The episode ends with Chekhov dying. Chekhov dies. He's gone. Next episode, he's back. No explanation. So all of a sudden, people start writing Dorothy Fontana. How can you do this? How can you write Chekhov as dead when you know he's going to be coming back? And Dorothy's response was, "It's a show, people."
Yeah. So it was basically the evil Captain Kirk
Right.
episode
Yeah.
on Star.
It's the evil Bill Shatner,
Yeah, the evil
Get
Bill
a life.
Shatner.
Get a
Get a
life.
life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that does not that doesn't work.
And it
very
doesn't
well.
fly well
That
with
does
Trek
not
fans.
fly
Right.
well.
It doesn't.
No.
You want to know
Right.
why? Because so much of Trek fandom is logic and science-based thinking, right? And just like scientists will have arguments and discussions and back and forth for years over theoretical things like,
Right.
can we do this weird theoretical thing that may never happen, but it's important for determining this theory thing over here, and like go to town on it forever? We do the same thing in Trek and in fandom because we have those kind of brains, which is why we're drawn to that. It's sort of circular.
But conversely, we don't see as much of that in Star Wars or in more of the
You don't
fantasy
because
stuff.
you don't
bit.
think
You
of
see
it
a
as
little
logic
bit.
based.
You
little
see
bit.
a little bit, but not
Not to that degree.
level.
I
Not
don't
to that
know.
level.
People were pretty mad about the prequels.
Well, no, they're mad about
has
the
to do with
that has to do
quality.
with
Because it was
story.
George Lucas just grabbing
That has
cash.
to do with story. That doesn't have
Oh,
to
are
do
we
with
are we
it.
talking
Yeah.
about people just
No.
dissing our fan base in general?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
So, but I think you're bringing up a good point, right? And that's in Star Wars. It's an adventure show,
Right.
right?
It's fantasy
It's
and
fantasy,
science.
but
I would
good
even
and
things
evil.
go. We
and-
let certain things go.
And I would even
inside
say
of
it's
Star
more
Wars.
accepted than Star Trek.
Right, and whereas with Star Trek, right? I mean, Star Trek, it's technical, it's science.
Yes.
And
Very
because
science.
it's technical and because it's science, we debate it as science, even if it's theoretical science or made up science, like how the warp drive could actually work. Right? We debate it.
Yes.
Right.
Because they address it.
Yeah, because in Star Wars they have hyperspace.
Do you know
Right.
how it works?
And we don't care how
Nobody
it works.
cares.
Nobody talks about how it works. Nobody cares.
It's the magic MacGuffin.
And what do
Yeah.
people bitch about in Star Wars? Midichlorians.
Midichlorians.
Ugh.
So as soon as they
Exactly.
try to actually explain something, we're like, no, that sucks. Don't
That's like
explain it.
It's like
Exactly.
leave the science to Star Trek, please.
Perfect,
Yes.
perfect example.
Star Wars is all about magic, and the Star Wars fans do not
Yes.
want to see how the magician's trick is
Right.
done.
Yes.
Right.
Let me
Yes.
believe in the magic.
Thank
That
you.
is a beautiful way to put it.
Perfect.
I want to steal that quote.
So yeah, man, we want our science, we want our logic, we want it to make sense, and we care so much that we're gonna have it make sense down to the
But
tiniest
when
molecule.
it doesn't, you get questions like that.
like
Right.
like this, which is the continuation of that.
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
Oh yes.
Star Trek Reality, Alternate Reality Part 2.
Oh no.
Going back to Viridian 3, actually, every member of Star Trek Next Generation is dead because the Enterprise crashed on Viridian 3
All died.
before Picard
And then
When
the
it's
planet
went
blew
the
up.
back
Nexus.
into the Nexus.
That's right.
So they're all dead. So that means data is.
Everybody's dead. The Star Trek series actually ended after the crash of the Enterprise on Viridian 3. There were no survivors. Everything we have seen since then has been an alternate reality within the mind of Captain Picard, within the Nexus itself. So Star Trek 8, Star Trek 9, Star Trek 10 were all alternate next generation realities going on within the Nexus, strictly within the perception of Captain Jean-Luc Picard. The man has got a really screwed up imagination because he killed off Data, so that's not a good thing. Bad Picard.
Oh my goodness. That means that the new reboot is also in his head, isn't
Not
it?
necessarily.
No, because
No, it
that's a
happened long
different
before.
timeline.
It happened.
No,
Yeah.
okay,
Before.
but no, it didn't.
Yes, it did.
No,
Yeah.
because
It did.
Spock went back in time after the whole Nexus thing.
That's true.
Oh.
But
Oh.
Spock was nowhere near Viridian 3.
Yeah.
He had nothing to do with the Nexus.
But-
and
but
there was no
Picard-
reason for Picard
if
to
he-
think about him.
No, but if you read the prequel comic, Picard was part of that prequel comic, part of Spock going back in time.
Okay.
And there
So-
brings in another
Well,
piece.
now, if that's the case, then
Oh.
I will accept that because I would like nothing more than just say, we've been complaining about, can we please go back to our original universe? Well, there's the way to do it.
So
Well, but it's more than that. It's all the ancillary material that has been created from this franchise that goes on and on and on, and we all try to bring every piece of it in as canon.
Well, I think
Every bit.
Richard Arnold. I saw Richard Arnold at a convention years ago in San Jose, and this is when Gene was still alive, and the question was, what's canon and what isn't?
Yep.
And Richard's answer was, at the time, now there was no Deep Space Nine. You had classic series, animation series, and movies and Next Gen. And he said, this is what's canon: original series, Next Generation, the animated series, not canon, never happened. The movies, mostly canon.
Oh, okay.
And when someone said, how can the movies be mostly canon? He says, Star Trek 4, when Chekhov is revived and he's being quizzed, name, rank. And Chekhov says, name, Chekhov, rank, Admiral. Roddenberry said, Chekhov would never say that. So therefore, the movies are like only 80% canon.
Interesting.
Okay. So I'm okay with that. Can we just all agree?
But
that,
the books are not.
But can we all just agree that Generations was just a hooey movie?
Yeah.
I
Instead-
like Generations.
Really?
Yes. I love all Trek though.
You're the one.
Well, I do
heard about
too.
you.
I do like all Trek, but
I even like Nemesis.
felt it was I did too. But I felt that it was a bloated episode.
It was well. I felt that way about almost every movie outside of First Contact. I felt they were all bloated episodes.
Huh.
Every single one of them. Oh yeah, Nemesis, Insurrection.
They all came off as kind of.
Insurrection was my
Yeah.
least favorite.
Was a bloated episode.
Oh my god, Insurrection.
Yeah, I mean, they all came off as our TV series that were stretched to 2 hours.
Yes.
Just for
exactly.
the same, just for the fact that it needed to go to
Well,
2
Generations, I will
Correct.
forgive only in one respect, and that is as soon as they wrapped on All Good Things,
Yep.
they went straight
Straight into the
right
movie.
into the production of Generations. In fact, they used the same film crew. I mean, the entire crew that was worked on, that did the television series did the movie, which I thought was actually a tragic mistake because it did not work on the big screen.
Right.
Agreed. So
Right.
that's gonna be my answer to Sam Sloan's question. Was that movie was hooey, and I refuse to acknowledge it.
So we're going on record by saying that Star Trek Generations is not canon.
I think it should be fired from a cannon into deep space.
Therefore, it never happened.
Actually, I'm kind of going with all of you on this one because the problem with it creates too many problems. It creates too many plot holes and questions on what happens next.
Is it too simple of me to say that the potential canon is so huge because of all the Star Trek material out there that we can now just pick and choose what makes best sense to us?
Exactly.
Oh, it's a smorgasbord now.
That's the joy of the bigness of the
Think
universe.
too
of
much, you
that.
do.
Yeah.
Watch Star Trek Wars. You must.
So I think like the Nexus in that movie was just plutonium. It's
It
all
was
about
plutonium.
Plutonium.
It was.
I've
It
never
was
heard that
bad
plutonium.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think the cat aliens from the animated series are canon.
Score.
There was books about them. I remember reading books about them.
Well,
Yes,
that was-
back when I read books.
The Thundercats.
I don't
they
believe it
made
ever
it to
happened.
Star Trek. It was awesome.
I did not know that Thundercats
Is
was a
Snarf-
spin-off
is
of
Snarf
Star
in Star
Trek.
Trek?
It is. You didn't even know that, Snarf.
So our next Star Trek episode is going to be about Thundercats.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
Thundercats, go!
I do have this question though, as far as the movies go.
No, go ahead.
For me, there were two standouts. I did think that Star Trek II was a standout film. I thought Star Trek VI was a standout film. Would everybody be in agreement there?
And,
Oh, yeah.
and I will tell you
Not
the one
entirely.
reason, I will tell you the one reason why. Nicholas Meyer.
I've got problems with 6.
I like 6. It has problems, but I like it.